my gosh, do I have an addicting series for you. She just does it like no other. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. I'm just really excited for today's video. So let's just get right into it. Hello, my darling friends. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so psyched for today's video. You know those books that just live absolutely rent-free in your mind that you just worry, honestly, for the rest of your life, you're not gonna be able to replicate those feelings or find books that give you kind of like the same vibes as that? Well, for today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys some book recommendations based off of books that are really popular or I really enjoyed, you guys really enjoyed. And honestly, the books that I'm gonna recommend to you guys, I just have not stopped thinking about them in one way or the other. So I'm just so excited to yap about these and hopefully help you guys find some new favorites. I have 10 book recommendations I'm gonna give you guys. And the first one is based off of one of my all-time favorite books, one of my all-time favorite romances, and that is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. She's one of my favorite romance authors. I just love the connection between magical realism and romance. It works so well for me. It just, for me, gives romance that little extra element to keep me engaged. Some things that I love, honestly, about this story is the exploration of grief that our female main character is going through. She's lost a maternal influence in her life. Her late aunt has just given her this apartment that apparently slips through time. We are just taken on this journey of these two star-crossed lovers that love each other through time. Oh, it's just so good. If you haven't read it, you need to read it. But if it is also one of your favorite books and you love those elements, then boy, do I have a recommendation for you. I'm gonna recommend to you One and Only by Maureen Gu, and this is actually a new release. This just came out in the month of February, and I got this as my book of the month pick. I absolutely love this book. This book was so good. It gave me all of the feelings that I wanted to feel, and it reminded me of The 7-Year Slip because we have a few parallels in here. Our female main character, Cassia, she comes from a very strong Korean family, and she lost her mother as a little girl and has been raised by the other strong females like her grandmother, her great aunt, and her aunt. And there is something very special about the women in Cassia's family. They have this ability to look at someone, read their face kind of like they would read a palm, and they can find who your one and only true love is. The women in her family run this really cool matchmaking service in Beverly Hills, and they call it One and Only. And it is so cool to see that element and to see that magic. I thought it was so incredibly interesting. Cassia has known for about 10 years that his name is Daniel Nam, and one side of their business is that they help to track down true loves, but for some reason or other, Daniel Nam is like nowhere to be found. Cassia's coming on and she's feeling like her time clock is just ticking. She wants to start that next chapter of her life with the person that she loves, and she quite literally almost runs into my favorite character in this book, Ellis. But here's the thing. Ellis is not her one true love, and he's also quite a bit younger than her. While we go through this story, we are tackling themes of, is there really only one true love in this lifetime? We're also tackling themes of Cassia dealing with grief and dealing with a loss of kind of like a belief system that she had. And like in The 7-Year Slip, we have just one of the most incredible male main characters that I've seen in a while. I just fell in love with him right alongside Cassia, and I loved her story. It just seemed so real, just the struggles she was having as women get older, to have these pressures put on them about having a family and for your life to look a certain way, and then also her journey of breaking out of the social norms that are expected in a relationship, but also what her family expects her to do and who her family expects her to choose. It is seriously just such a beautifully told story, and you just will fall in love with this book. The next book that I'm going to talk about is actually a literary fiction, and it is Blue Sisters by Coco Malore. We have these sisters who are mourning the loss of one of their sisters, and they're all dealing with it in different ways. It just affects their lives differently, and they're all just going through things. I feel like I've seen this book everywhere in the past few years, and also it's been having a resurgence recently. If you love Blue Sisters or you love a book about sisters, family relationships, and grief, then I'm going to recommend to you a book that I love, and that is Spectacular Things by Beck Dory Stein. Spectacular Things follows these two different sisters. Their father was never in the picture, and their mother they lost when they were teenagers, and the older sister essentially stepped up and raised her younger sister. We have our older sister who is married and about to have a baby. And then we have the younger sister, Cricket, who has spent her entire life working towards her goal to be a professional soccer player, which she has accomplished. This story really dives deep into sibling relationships, what it's like to be the older sister and kind of bear the burden of some of the raising, what it's like to be the younger sister who's always wanting to live up to a certain expectation and struggles with perfectionism, and the miscommunication that can happen between sisters because of this. It is just a really beautiful story. It's kind of told in like a then-now timeline of when they had their mom, right after they lost their mom, and then the present timeline where we have both of these sisters facing something that's really difficult. One needs the other one to sacrifice something, and then the other one would have to sacrifice her career and all of her passions in order to do so. This book really takes you through just the complexities of everything that's happening and the relationships, and also gives you a subplot of romance that I actually really loved. I don't see anybody ever talking about this book, and I think it is so underhyped. I think it was so incredible. It was one of my favorite 5 stars last year, and I just felt like as a sister myself, I totally related to some of the feelings that were in this book. A book that I've been seeing everywhere recently that is a dystopian romance is Conform by Ariel Sullivan. I've seen this everywhere. I've seen people rating it really highly. I actually just recently read it myself last month and really enjoyed it. This one has kind of a bit of an eerie feeling. It's definitely inspired by The Handmaid's Tale, and if you enjoyed this book or enjoy books like that and you haven't read this next book, then you totally should, because the second book will be coming out later this year, and that is Rose in Chains by Julie Soto. I was captivated by this story. I was so into it when I was reading it. As you're reading this, you just have this fascination with what's happening in this book, while also having like these gut-wrenching feelings with how certain characters are being treated in this book. But essentially in this book, a war has ended and the side that we would think is good has fallen. We are being thrust right into this post-war world. We have our female main character, Bryony, who is part of the Evermore, which is this line that has fallen. She was essentially the princess. And in that war, there were 2 separate sides. We had the Evermore, and then we have the Beaumard, and they have different kinds of magic. One of them has heart magic, and one of them has head magic. And basically in this story, the Evermore that have been left alive have been enslaved. We have this really eerie beginning chapter right after the Chosen One, who is Bryony's brother, has fallen, and then we skip ahead to when Bryony is essentially being auctioned off to the highest bidder within the Beaumard, which is where we meet our male main character, Tovin Hurst, who is one of the leaders in the Beaumard. And despite his exterior, his reputation, and everything that Bryony knows about him from school, things are not as they seem. This story is honestly just so captivating. I loved how it was told in a then and now perspective of when Bryony first met Tovin and things that were happening within the Evermore when they were still in power, and then also in the now where she is essentially enslaved to this family, but yet isn't being treated horribly like all of the Evermore. The quiet rebellion that is happening in this story, and also just the sisterhood that happens between the enslaved, I really just loved, and I was so captivated by. And the ending, I could not believe it. Like, my jaw was on the floor. There's also this story of romance that is woven throughout that I was just eating up. I was here for it. I cannot wait for the next book in this series, and if you think that this sounds interesting, you should definitely read this book. Switching gears to a contemporary romance that was released last year, I believe, Left of Forever by Tara DeWitt. I found a love for the marriage in crisis or the divorce second chance trope last year. I loved it, and I know a lot of people loved this book. It felt really real. The way that their relationship was portrayed, and then all of the issues that caused them to separate, also felt very real and very relatable. And if you loved that book, then you need to try out this indie author. This book is called Forever and Back by Ashley Manley. She's actually local to North Carolina, I believe. And this book, oh my goodness, I love this book so much. This book has one of the best portrayals of postpartum depression, of what it's really like to be a mom postpartum, how it changes your view on yourself, how it changes your view on your relationship, and what happens when your needs as a woman and as a mom and as a human being are just put on the back burner for so long. There was so much in this book that absolutely captivated me, and I originally read this on Kindle Unlimited, and I want to go back and reread this in physical form and annotate it, because there were just so many times where I would read a line or a paragraph and just be like, oh, that just hit me in the gut as a mom and as someone who's been through this experience. It was so great. And the romance in this, absolutely incredible. We have this married couple, we have June and we have Camp, and June is just not happy. She's realized that she has kind of given up everything and lost herself in the process of being a mom and a wife. And she just wants to find herself again. Another book that I would relate this to is Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young, because in that one we also see a female main character who just really, really wants to find herself again. And in this story, we see June striving to do just that. And her husband, Camp, is everything. What I love about this story is we have a very relatable husband, a very real husband, a husband who is so in love with his wife that will truly do anything to keep her. And I think that's what I loved about this one. I think when you do like married second chance books, you have to be careful because you can't make people fall in love with a deadbeat. But that's not how it is in this one. You have a lot of respect for Camp. You have a lot of love for him. And you see the things that he was doing behind the scenes that perhaps June wasn't noticing because she was in her own depression. And I absolutely loved that. I loved how he was so there for her. He was so supportive throughout the entirety of their relationship. And I love that we are in the mind of June, because June is very much an unreliable narrator. She is not seeing everything. She is just obviously trapped in the confines of her mind, and we're right there with her. And the things that are revealed throughout the story, it just makes you root for both of them so much, and it makes you fall in love with these characters. Ashley Manley's writing, again, it just struck a chord in me. I think it was so beautiful, and I just loved it. I absolutely love this book. It is definitely not hyped enough. And if you haven't read this yet, what are you doing? What are you doing? For this next one, I actually want to start with two different books. I briefly want to mention Shadow and Bone, because the book that I'm going to recommend to you, if you loved The Darkling, this MMC was based off of The Darkling. But I also wanted to mention that if you loved Blood Over Brighthaven, you should definitely try out this next book. What I loved about Blood Over Brighthaven was the complexity of the magic, the complexity of the world. I loved learning about the politics and the caste system that they had in there. And it's also a book that you've got to turn your brain power up to really, really immerse yourself in that story. And this next book that I'm going to recommend to you is so severely underhyped. I don't understand why more people aren't talking about it. I know it was chosen by Fairy Loot last year at some point, and I saw some people reading it, but still not enough people are reading this book. And that is This Monster of Mine by Shalini Abe Sakara. The things that I would do to get the proof of the next book. Oh my gosh. This book is so incredible. I annotated the crap out of it. I absolutely loved it. This book is an ancient Rome inspired fantasy. And so another book I can think of like that would be The Will of the Many. The way that this world is set up, she has just created such a lush, such a detailed, well fleshed out world that I really loved. And the magic system in this is so interesting. Essentially, we are following a prosecutor who can detect lies magically. She has this like cuff that she can draw runes on that helps her detect lies. There are not a lot of people like her because petiters, which is what that's called, are being found unalived. So obviously we have not that many people who are wanting to step up to this job. When you are a petiter, you are essentially assigned to a head judge who's over a specific part of this land, and she is assigned to Tetrarch Kadra. Tetrarch Kadra, who is inspired by the Darkling, he is ice cold, he is known as being sadistic, there's lots of rumors about him, and she does not want to be paired with him at all, especially especially because his voice starts triggering certain memories for her. Somebody attempted to unalive her. They essentially pushed her off of this tower and she was kind of put back together, kind of patchwork. And as she realizes she's recognizing his voice and that he was potentially there that night, she starts to kind of lead a double life. As she's working, solving cases with him by day, by night, she is trying to find dirt against him. And this whole cat and mouse thing that we have going on is so interesting. But on top of that, the political intrigue and the political corruption also just had me flipping pages on this book. It was so good. I really think if you like a more sophisticated world in your fantasy series, then you will really love this book. Next, we're going to move into a literary fiction recommendation. If you like a book about feminine rage, about female empowerment, and if you like it to have notes of a little bit of magic and historical fiction in it, then you've probably already read Wayward by Amelia Hart. This is a story that I read this past year and really was captured by the story of these three women, these three witches throughout time. And if you liked the elements in that story, then you absolutely need to read The Hounding by Zenobie Purvis. I read this book around spooky season, but I really think it could be read whenever if you're into a gothic kind of like eerie type of a vibe. This book is so good. It is very short. I got it in my Aardvark book box and I think it's about 225 pages, so something that could be read really quickly, but it is a haunting tale about a time when it was safer for girls to be dogs than them to be girls. Essentially what's happening in this story is we are following these different villagers and this story is being told from these different villagers' standpoints, which is so interesting. You can't trust who is talking, you don't know what's going on, but essentially this family of girls is kind of being accused of turning into dogs and attacking certain things at night. This takes place after the witch trials, but not that long after, so that'll give you an idea of the time period. But we have different villagers who are saying, oh, I've seen these dogs running around, you know, their property. They unalived my chickens, they did this, they did that. We have another villager saying they've been hearing howling around their house at night. And then we have another villager saying they've actually seen it happen. Meanwhile, we have our actual girls who we learn more about in this story and about maybe why the villagers are turning against them. And honestly, it's just a story about what happens when girls dare to be different and how society kind of turns against them and works against them. It is really truly a spellbinding story, and up until the last page you are still wondering, is this actually happening? Is there magic really here? This author's so good at just making you feel for these girls, and you're just full of rage towards the people who are accusing them, but you're also questioning, are these girls actually turning into dogs? It's very different, obviously, from anything that I have ever read and normally read, but it is so good, and I highly recommend the audiobook too. Another book that has been everywhere, and for good freaking reason, because I love this book as well, is Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross. Rebecca Ross is known for her beautiful storytelling, her almost lyrical writing, her yearning, and her romance. She just does it like no other. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. And I'm also a big fan of the book that I think you should read if you loved Wild Reverence. So let's talk for a second about The Second Death of Locke by V.L. Bovalino. If you can't tell by my face, I am obsessed with this book. I love it so much. It is so underhyped. I cannot believe that it has so few ratings on Goodreads. It is absolutely incredible. In this story, we have flipping on its head of traditional roles because our female main character is a knight, and our male main character is the mage that she protects. In this world, we have what's called wells, and we also have hands. And wells essentially are people like our female main character, Gray, who have magic inside of them, but they can't access the magic necessarily by themselves. So they then are paired up with what are called hands or mages who are able to access the magic of their well. Because the mages are really mostly trained in magic, the wells are in charge of keeping their hands alive, and so they become these protectors, these soldiers. Gray and Kier have been together for a long time in this hand well capacity. They've known each other since they were kids, but it is ruled that a well and a mage cannot be in a romantic relationship. It is supposed to be only platonic feelings. This also reminds me a bit of Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare, because we have a similar thing going on there with a parabatai relationship, which is a pair of soldiers that essentially hunt demons together, and they are not allowed to have any romantic relationships according to the politics of their world. That is very similar vibes in the second death of Locke. And there's one problem. We're in Grey's mind, and we know that she is fiercely in love with Kier. She not only loves him as a person, but she is also in love with him. And this story is told in her perspective. And the yearning, you guys, the yearning, I can't, like, it's just the most beautiful thing I've read in so long. I'm sure you can tell how much I love this book by how much I annotated it. But even though we are in our female main character's side, we are also just getting everything we want and more from the other side. What I love in this book is the intimacy that is portrayed. Like, not everything needs to be about lust, but how you love someone so much. There's like these little intimacies of like Kier putting a hand on a shoulder or knowing exactly where an ache and pain is on Grey's body, because they've been together for so long and they're just able to anticipate each other's needs. And that, honestly, it just took my breath away. And the fact that there's 2 more books coming in this, I thought this was a standalone fantasy, and it can definitely be read that way because the next 2 books in this series are interconnected standalones. But oh, I cannot wait. We also have just this hidden identity with one of our characters that really just keeps you on the edge of your seat throughout the whole story. If you take any recommendations from me today, please read this book. Please read this book. Now, the next recommendation I'm going to give you guys is based off of Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. I loved this book last year, and I know that a ton of people read this book last year and loved it. I've also seen a resurgence in people reading it in January as well. This book is like a sweeping women's fiction mixed with mystery. Within that book, we have our female main character who is married to a childhood best friend, but also has this epic love story she can't seem to leave behind. And if you liked reading about the complexities of her relationship and really leaning into that, then I would highly recommend Slanting Towards the Sea by Lydia Hillier. This is one of my first 5 stars of this year. I absolutely loved this book. It is really more of a women's fiction with also a little bit of a second chance romance storyline, but it's so much more than that. Like, I love the notes of relationships and romance that we get in here, but just following a flawed main character who really learns so much about herself, who doesn't always make the best decisions, but you are so satisfied with the ending and just watching her growth and watching what she learns about herself, learning what she wants out of a relationship and what's most important to her. I absolutely loved this story. In this story as well, we get a lot of Croatian history. We get a lot of beautiful descriptions of the country. We learn about the politics as well. And even though that is kind of a backseat, it is very present. And I love learning about different countries. I think it's really important to just be a varied reader who doesn't just read from the country I'm from, have similar backgrounds to me, and I loved that. But I just love the yearning in this book and also just the self-discovery. It's so interesting. It makes you think about the concept of sacrifice and the motivations behind what you sacrifice and what you're making yourself a martyr for. Very interesting. Such an incredible read. The next 2 that I have, I'm going to recommend to you a little bit differently. The first that I'm going to recommend to you is based off of a show. You grew up like I did with Law & Order SVU on, with Criminal Minds on, and you want a book recommendation that feels like that, but also maybe isn't as gritty and intense and creepy, then oh my gosh, do I have an addicting series for you. I read the entire series of The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes last year, and I loved it. I read the entire series within a week, and I was just so captivated and addicted to these stories. The first book or 2 are pretty short, and they're so fast-paced. They follow these young adults that have these specific abilities not paranormal abilities, but more so like scientific abilities, psychological abilities. So we have our female main character who's really, really good at reading people, at putting herself in the mindset of a victim, and she can kind of profile the unaliver from there. And then we have another character who's really good at spotting lies. We have a computer whiz. We have all of these really cool characters with these really cool abilities that have been placed together as like a special unit of the FBI, and they are solving cases, and it is so fun. The fact that it's YA, I feel like makes it very approachable for someone like me who doesn't necessarily like the horror genre. I'm not huge into thrillers. I like them occasionally, but this is so approachable and addictive. I really think if you're going into a slump, this would be a great series to help you get out of one or help you prevent one. It is just so fun, and there's a little bit of like relationships in here as a subplot that I really enjoyed, but really what I liked most of all is there's an overarching mystery that continues through the entire series. So while we're looking at a different specific mystery in each book, we also have another one that's making you want to continue just in the series with knowing what is happening in this overarching mystery plotline that we have. It is so good. It really is just so fun. And last but not least, a book recommendation that I have for those of you who are maybe coming from the romance genre or from the romantasy genre and wanting to get into a little bit of sci-fi, but you're intimidated. I have the perfect book recommendation for you that combines sci-fi elements, but also with the best yearning. And I've said that so many times in this video, but truthfully, I'm somebody who really appreciates true yearning, things that aren't very insta-lust, things that build over time and that you can just tangibly feel a character's love for one another. And so I have to recommend to you The Blighted Stars by Megan E. O'Keefe. This is the beginning of a space epic trilogy. The second book is on my 26 for 2026, but essentially we are in outer space. It is very important for humankind to find viable planets because certain planets have been dying and we need a place to live. Another really cool thing about this world is that if your body is aging or sick or dying in any form, there is now this technology to essentially download your consciousness and put it in a new body. It's almost like you're 3D printing a new body for yourself, and because of that, we can also make ourselves stronger. You can make yourself smarter. You can pick certain pathways to really customize the body that you're going into. However, there's a portion of people that believe that something with this printing process is what is causing viable planets to die. There is one family that has a monopoly on this printing process who kind of created it, called the Mercator family. We have our rebellion who is trying to prove that what this family is doing is really causing these planets to die. Our female main character is so cool. She is so incredible. She is very strong. She's very badass. She was a bodyguard for the patriarch of that family and then made some discoveries, and because of that had essentially been put on ice to not be reprinted, but she ends up getting reprinted into the bodyguard of the son and heir of the family. Now our MMC, he is extremely smart. He's more of a nerdy kind of a guy, and so the two of them, obviously there's a bit of a hidden identity here, end up crash landing on this planet and having to do some research here and trying to get out alive. The undertones of romance in this between the two of them are so good, and it's kind of giving the vibes of I would love you in every lifetime, I would love you in whatever body, and it just makes it so good. It really is so good. Don't be intimidated by the length. It is very fast paced, and I just feel like it's written for the girls like me and you who might not be super into sci-fi yet but want to be. It is so approachable, and I honestly loved the audiobook too. I thought it was so fun, and I cannot wait to continue in the series, but why isn't anybody else talking about it? It's so good. It is really so good. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of this video. I had so much fun making this video for you guys, and I hope that you guys got some good recommendations to take with you, maybe based off of some of your favorite books. If you want any more book recommendations based off of your favorite books, please leave me one of your favorite books in my comments below. Or if you don't know what to write, just leave me a planet emoji based off of my last and final book recommendation. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please consider staying a while. I would love to have you here as part of my community, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!